Hey, so we got Sebastian all settled in. So this is Just Talking, and this is super cool because we got publisher and illustrator, and you're kind of an all things guru in everything that comes to writing. So Sebastian, just to get it right off the gate, who are you to the listeners who might not know you?
Well, first and foremost, thank you. Oh, thank you.
No, you're good.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, of course.
Just sort of to preface, who I am, originally it wasn't writing. It was actually illustration. When I was 14, I was actually signed on to illustrate a children's book. That children's book quickly turned into a children's series.
Say the children's book because I love the
All
book.
right.
I was so excited when you came on. I was like, I know that book.
It's called The Adventures of Daniel.
Yay!
And it was just sort of a milestone for me, especially at 14 when, at that age people just draw for fun, at least in my high school.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until age 17, 18 where the writing really took off.
Okay.
And ironically, in a not childlike manner, where I started to get more satirical and more dark humor. And that's when the sort of genre merge began.
Were you like getting one of those like maybe little like paper towel bats, like you get at Red Robin, and you were just the illustrator that used to draw like crazy, and you drew outside the lines? Is that like how it got started?
I mean, it was for the most part I followed the rules of like what was expected, what I believed people would like, and then it was like who cares if people didn't like it? As long as I liked writing it, that's what's most important.
Oh, yeah.
And for lack of a better word, it became just sort of my passion to do things outside the norm of, what was expected.
Yeah, and you know what I really like about your story, The Adventures of Daniel? My biggest companion is my dog. So when I hear about Sparky, I just love that whole kind of concept because I think if obviously I have brothers and you have brothers and sisters and but I think everybody just has that special bond right at a young age with your dog. And was that kind of same experience as well?
It was. I want to say 6, 7. I had my first dog, Lucas, and it was just, I loved it. I loved the dog with all my heart, and I feel like every boy should have a relationship with his dog.
And every girl.
And every girl as well. No, every child
My daughter loves her dog, let me tell you.
Every child should have a relationship, with his or her dog, before, like, human interaction or alongside. There should also be that companion interaction.
Right. And so with the stories of Adventures of Daniel, what do you want the youth to get out of these kind of stories? Because I know there's a certain message that you're always trying to get out of every certain series.
It is to appreciate what you do have, appreciate the time spent with your family, and to try new experiences. In each book, Daniel and his family, it's a new adventure each book. Essentially going to the beach, going to the farmer's market, going to visit grandma and grandpa. These all seem like sort of inconsequential things when you're an adult. But as a kid, the world is huge.
Yeah.
And the world was huge for me, and I'm sure it's been huge for all of us.
I think some
at
adults
such a
can
young
go
age.
back and reread these books because I know these books now. So these are on the list of books I want my daughter to read also. So I was really excited when you came in. I was like, I know those books. But I think as adults to revisit what is it about life? Because the grind and the hustle and not taking that moment just to breathe and be in, I'm thankful I do have this happening right now.
Yeah, and and my biggest thing is too, it's like I know that the really big importance of, with that series is you love to tackle new morals and ethics. And why did this all sort of come about? Because don't you think like us adults need some more of that?
No,
instead of the youth.
No, of course. And when I originally illustrated the book, I wanted it to be relatable not just to children but to all audiences. I wanted father figures to relate to the father figure of the book, and vice versa with the mother figure, and sort of just like it can happen in real life. I know that there's a lot of families that maybe aren't together, or maybe only have one parent. It's not to say that a married family can work, only. It's to say you can have a great life as a child, regardless of the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a question. So, and it's not on here, I'm sorry. But how did you get involved? Like you were 15. Okay. So the author, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
Rene Gazzari.
Yes. Did he approach you? Was there like a contest to see like who had the best illustrations? Like how at 15 did you land this?
The story goes that I was actually sketching in my Algebra 2 class.
Oh,
okay.
that's funny.
In a class where, any kind of distraction like that, you get detention. So needless to say, it's not that I didn't care, but I wasn't paying attention. She looks over my shoulder. I thought that I was going to get the boot, and she says, this is really good. I didn't think much of it until she said, I have someone that, really wants to illustrate a children's book, but he doesn't have an illustrator. Mm-hmm. And me being at 15, I thought this was my big break. And for lack of a better word, I guess it was. But, we sat down and he told me I need an illustrator. I'm trying to do a children's book. And, mind you, I've never done anything outside of just drawing in a book, in a sketchbook. That's
so obviously they weren't dirty drawings in algebra.
No.
Yeah, at 15.
It was the same.
No dick pics.
Yeah. Hey, that's the middle school life, I guess, when you open up your school book.
Right? At 15? I mean, come on.
But, Sebastian, you do have a very unique style of illustration work, especially when it comes to Adventures of Daniel. Mm-hmm. And it kind of reminded me of kind of that old school work that I would see with Walt Disney's original Mickey Mouse. Is that sort of the angle that you were kind of going for? Or?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's
nice,
predominantly
Chris.
like my inspiration, I would say.
Okay.
Just sort of like contrasting lines, a lot of darks, and a lot of shading. Just so it really pops.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And going through the Adventures of Daniel, I noticed a shift even in my own work where I started incorporating cartoons with real life, where I would superimpose the cartoons on real life backgrounds just to sort of juxtapose it.
Right.
The Adventures of Gumball on Cartoon Network does the same kind of thing, and I thought, this works. So
yeah, if someone else has done it successfully,
why
not do it? I think that's a really cool thing. And I know
I know we're talking about tackling moral issues and everything with Adventures of Daniel, but some of your other work that you have the Courtesy Jerk.
Yes.
And that is very refreshing. And how did you get the idea to create this series? Because this is a satirical part of you coming out where as a server for 20 plus years of my life, these thoughts have ran across my mind way too often.
Right.
Well, what can I really say? I mean, Courtesy Jerk, it wasn't my first satirical outing, but working in customer service. So when I got my first job at 17.
This already sounds good already.
Yeah, when I got my first job at 17, I was
telephone marketer?
Ralph's.
Okay.
So Ralph's Grocery. So
even worse.
As a courtesy clerk, that was my job.
So you were a
position.
bagger?
I was a bagger. I was a bagger. I pushed shopping carts. I swept the.
Horrible.
It's really demeaning, right? But at
people are so mean to baggers.
Exactly, and at 17, it's like that's the position that you get. You kind of stick with it. You notice how ruthless some people could be, especially customers. And these are the type of people that you're supposed to be nice to. And if you're not nice to
the manager immediately.
You can notice the
Well, the listeners are missing the disdain in his face when he's speaking about this. This seems like a very strong issue that you have a lot to get off your chest.
Well, it's strong enough to span 5 books, let's just say. Like Courtesy Jerk, it's a series of 5 books. But making fun of customers, and this is way past Kevin Smith's Clerks, the movie from '94.
Yeah, or even seeing Waiter, too.
Or Waiter.
Oh,
right.
my God, dude.
I'd never seen these 2 movies until way after Courtesy Jerk was published.
Because it's right up that same alley.
Exactly. Sardonic, satirical. These people are just, for lack of a better word, scum.
People are mean.
People are mean. And, to make fun of that and to portray it in a satirical sense, I feel like it's very relatable.
Yeah.
Everyone has to go through that demeaning first job.
Right.
And
I'm still in mine.
Well, we even talked about it before on the show one time before that kids just go through job depression. And usually it takes a 12-week span just to get that one job that you truly want. Yeah. And I think at a young age you kind of learned real quick, this is not what I'm trying to do.
This is not what I'm trying to do, but more so like how can I take this perceivably negative situation and flip it into not something, I don't want to say profitable, but something that I can enjoy. And I thoroughly enjoyed writing Courtesy Jerk, start to finish.
But how did that name title come up? Because when I kept thinking about it, it sounded like a really dope punk band. Like Courtesy Jerk, I was like, let's go.
So Courtesy Jerk was a play on my first job title as a courtesy clerk.
Oh, that's hilarious.
As a courtesy clerk, you're supposed to be nice as a clerk. courtesy jerk, you can be nice. However, as a jerk, I don't really mean all the nice stuff that I say. I may wish you a good day, but really at the end of the day, I'm flipping it off. It's,
I like curse people. I know it sounds horrible,
yeah,
but like in my head, if they like do something rude, I'm just like, and curses to you. Curses,
Yep.
bad luck. Bad luck is coming to you.
But then again, I feel like maybe this has been down the family line this whole time, because I did find this really interesting fact that on your father's side, you are a descendant of Mark Twain.
Mark Twain.
One of the greatest satire writers of all times.
Oh my god! Are you gonna fall asleep and wake up?
Do you have like special genes? If that's such a thing, it has to be. I mean, I have really screwed up eye vision.
Yeah.
You have a really good writing skill. I mean,
Thank you.
maybe.
That is so cool.
So on my father's side, we're very closely related to the Clemens family, the surname of Clemens, and Samuel Clemens. That was his original name, and great grandmother, I believe. Don't quote me on this.
Okay.
But it is on my father's side,
Yeah.
and I want to say distant cousins.
Yeah. But you said Clemens,
so
and it was just such
cool.
an interesting point, because what I noticed with you is, especially in like an age of identity politics right now, you go under a pen name.
I do.
Nicholas Parker. Is this because you don't want people to interfere with the likes of your children novels and et cetera?
So I always try to incorporate different styles with different names. So with The Adventures of Daniel, people associate that with Sebastian Schug, child-friendly. Nicholas Parker, satirical. And that's just sort of how I've been, just to separate it, but also to, incorporate that I can do different styles. And artists can do that.
Right.
People feel that they have to stick with one style, and that's not always the case.
That's so true. I just always thought it was so
It reminds me of Soren. We have a musician on who, what music he has really shaped his name on there.
Yeah, and I always was making that joke with him. I was like, did you hide him under the closet like in Harry Potter? Can we at least get Sebastian Schug out of here? Like, let's get him out. Man, I just want to remind all the listeners out there, you're listening to The Chris Collins Show. We're going to be right back after this commercial break. Hey, what's good, listeners? You're listening to The Chris Collins Show, and we got Sebastian Schug in the studio. He's a publisher, he's an illustrator, he's an all things guru. And the thing is, it's so amazing with you is you have published over at least 80 books. Am I correct?
That's right.
That's insane.
How old are you?
21.
21 years old with over 80.
Okay. I
Okay.
hate you.
If most people spend their time actually writing things down or using their Apple app notes or something, instead of just putting all your works cited source all over social media for everybody to hear, maybe you might have something, But the one thing I loved about you is you have this strong belief of just procrastinating and doing multiple projects at one time. I usually start to have a heart attack if I start making that kind of stuff happen. What is your case?
All right. So with the procrastination, I've really learned how to make it work for me. And I'll have these types of ideas where, it's something I really want to do, but I don't know the process of how to do it. So I'll really just work on something else, which I do know how to do, take what I've learned from that and incorporate it into the project that I need to work on or that I really want to work on.
Right.
And it's just sort of worked out for me in the past where, 5 or 6 or 7 projects going on at once has really been, it's been good for me.
And that's wild because, are you getting some of these stories from, walks of life, just strangers, or are these coming from personal experiences?
Personal experiences, walks of life, definitely inspired by, friends, peers, family, especially. Yeah. And, I just sort of take it with a grain of salt and just make my own story with it.
Yeah. Wow. Do you ever like to bounce the ball up against the wall with your friends, I guess, and just kind of hash out ideas?
Do you even have friends? I don't know if you have time for friends.
I know, he's 21, books. He's got 80 books. He don't have
do you have friends?
Admittedly, yes, I do. Admittedly, I am a workaholic.
You really are, man.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It might be a little bit dangerous, at my age to just be so invested in it. But
do you eat healthy? How? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm still blown away at how you've done this much, and I have done none.
Yeah, I mean, because I've always, this is actually a great question. This is a personal question of mine. I've actually always wanted to try to start a blog. Maybe just write one once a month. What would be your number one advice, I guess, for myself to try to just get the ball rolling? Is there like a certain tactic you use when you approach a certain topic?
Well, if I may ask, do you have like an idea ready?
I have one in mind.
Okay. Then I would say.
So number one, have an idea.
Well, more so have an idea, but make sure that you're really committed to this idea.
Oh, okay.
Because, whether it be a blog or a book, I know those are two different things.
Right.
One takes longer to do than the other. Make sure you are committed to your topic. Make sure that you want to write about your topic from start to finish. More often than not, admittedly, I'm guilty of this. You think of an idea, you think it's really great, you get halfway through, I don't want to write this anymore. You just lose interest. Mm-hmm. With a blog, it's a lot easier because, it's a lot less to do, but make sure that you just have that idea and that you're really passionate about that idea.
Yeah, so when you notice like halfway through it, if you're not into
it, you're not into it.
That's kind of a good point. It's just like when you're in a band, right? You start playing it halfway, and you're like, man, we've already played this song like 7 times.
We played the song 7 times.
Sounds like crap.
Yeah.
It's not coming off the tongue right.
That's so funny. Yeah. I would think it'd be the other way of like, even when you're in those moments of, I don't want to do this, you just barrel through and do it.
Yeah, no, and there's definitely instances where, it's better to finish than to just stop.
Yeah.
But sometimes.
Sorry.
But it's.
Oh, you're good. Oh, you're on a good one today.
But I mean, it's better to, even if you think that your project sucks, the fact that you committed yourself to finishing it, I feel that it holds some merit.
Yeah.
And there's been, in the beginning, admittedly, there's been projects where, looking back, I wish I didn't finish it in the way that I initially wanted to, knowing what I know now.
Yeah. Hey, but that's the coolest part because that's growth, and I think people can see that kind of progression when you guys listen.
Yeah. Well, we had
Sebastian,
a story about people who are successful get up at a certain time in the morning. Mm-hmm. What time do you get up on average in the morning?
For my job, I get up at 5:30, and
that's pretty darn close.
That's exactly when they said like 5:23 or something. Yeah. 5:43. It was something a weird 3 number.
Yeah, you have to have an odd
but it was
number.
in 5.
Even when I don't have work, it's usually 5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Because
this is where we're failing, Chris. Continuously failing.
Yeah, I mean, I get so excited, I stay up like way too late at night the night before a show, and I'm just like, I got
if
so
I
many
see the
thoughts.
sunrise, I feel like I've been awake all night, even if I hadn't been. Like it messes with my brain.
Yeah, no, and it's true. And I know, Marissa, you had a kind of an interesting question on this.
Yes, I do. Okay, so
was that? I thought that was kind of your plug initially with that joke.
It was. I was trying to plug it in. But anyway, so for the listeners out here, do you have any advice on how to write for the opposite sex?
Or your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see.
For example, I am writing a book forever, and my main character is a female, and going in, and I have other characters in there, obviously that are male, and trying to write in that male voice. So opposite sex writing. What advice could you give me and listeners?
Assuming you have opposite sex friends, I would say make sure you learn the most about them as possible. Obviously, I'm not going to write as a girl or as a female lead, to the best of my ability, because obviously that's not who I am. And, I think just sort of driving that point home is that if you have external factors that you could bring in to really sort of heighten your focus of, how to write in this perspective, it's very beneficial.
Okay, so definitely get ideas. Have my friends
have
some
your
of the dialogue.
friends,
like, hey, would you say this, homie?
No, exactly. Like it sounds super cliche. Yeah. Would you say this? If they say no, no.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and also nonverbal as well, like interactions. Would this male character or female character do this? And if they wouldn't, then you cut it.
Yeah.
I mean,
kill your babies.
It really is an interesting.
It's a thing like when you're writing stuff or creating. It's called kill your babies.
Exactly.
You have to be able to cut.
You have to be able to cut the fat.
Kill your babies.
You have to be able to cut something that you think was, it was the genius idea.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
It's like having a child that doesn't amount to anything, and at 18, you finally just say,
"No, I don't know
you're
this
on your
for
own.
You're on your own. Yeah.
No.
You're on your own. Poor Lilac Faye. If you don't amount, you're on your own. Go back to England. My daughter's, she's also English and American.
That's the
joke.
brutal
That's
truth.
my joke.
But, I know with you, man, I know that you're very supportive of your own community and you're always constantly looking for that next person, because I think that's cool, because you had someone for you at an early age to kind of help you into the position that you're at now. And for all the listeners out there, what is like the most important advice you would give to those authors who want to be in those same shoes that you're in today?
Well, to number one, keep writing, but to number two, to network. And, I think that's where most people come to their first hurdle of, well, how do I do that? And working in Burbank, working in Los Angeles, it's a double-edged sword. You have everything there, and you have no way to get into the industry.
So
okay? Now, it's really just sort of difficult. And what I'm trying to do, myself and with my company, Sebastian Schug Publishing, is give those, independent authors and artists a voice in an industry where they don't have one, where you have to have a certain amount of clout, for lack of a better word, to even, get a foot in the door. And I don't think that's how it should be. You have all these, I would call them boutique publishing services charging an arm and a leg. I won't mention them. But for lack of a better word, I don't want to have to take out a second mortgage just to publish one book.
Yeah, it's so true.
And especially now with the Kindles and
they just
downloading.
I think it's just like with any kind of industry, right? The music industry, acting industry, publishing industry. Get out of that 3-mile radius that we call Hollywood.
Yes. Get out
just
there.
get out. You don't need to be in these certain places to make something happen. And
I just think it's cool you started your own publishing company, because that is one of the things that, like, as I'm writing this book, like, how do I sell this? How do I get this out there? I don't even care about making money on it. I mean, that'd be nice. But, like, my thing is, like, how do I get it out there? And it is. There are these, they call them dragons, that, stand in front of the door of all these huge publishing houses. And self-publishing is really rough. You got to have a lot of money, so I think for you to start a company for that, that's very admirable.
Like, people confuse it with self-publishing, but I don't print them and then sell them.
Yeah,
no, I have distribution channels that handle it for me. Like, a lot of people make that confusion, but it's,
But,
okay, one more question.
Yeah,
okay. You got
so
one?
I got one. I want to go back to what we were just talking about, Kindle. Do you think
That's right.
read a book day, does it count if I read it on my Kindle?
Or should we be reading out of a traditional book?
You can
and then what do you prefer?
Okay.
That's a two-part question.
Now, shameless plug, I do publish on all platforms.
Yes,
but
there's nothing.
I do think that, as long as the story is, you're grasping the story, you can read it on any platform you want. With myself, I actually recently started recording my own audiobooks.
Oh, that's
I feel like that counts as well.
Yeah.
As long as you're...
Okay, that's where I'm like,
Yeah. With audiobooks?
Audiobooks, I don't know.
Well, we're talking about National Read a Book Day.
It's still a work in progress, but to answer your question,
I
feel,
love audiobooks.
Kindle or paperback or hardback.
Right. Yeah, I'm so obsessed with hardback for some reason.
I love the smell of books.
It's like you do what you feel most comfortable with. If you want to read on a tablet, that's great. If you want to read in a book, that's great.
Right.
It's up to you.
And you know what? The one
read.
thing I would just ask, the one
read.
last question to hit you on the spot. What is your favorite publication that you've created so far?
My favorite publication would have to be my series Courtesy Jerk.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
No, I love it. I think the Courtesy Jerk, after all his inspirations from being a courtesy clerk, that's hilarious, man. That's really cool. I might have to take that as like a song title. I don't know. I love it. It's a beautiful thing. But I just want to remind all the listeners out there that you're listening to the Chris Collins Show, and this is publisher and illustrator Sebastian Schug. And this is amazing. But stick around, guys, because we have more.
Where can they follow you?
They can follow just a simple Google search, Sebastian Schug, Nicholas Parker. On my website as well, Sebastian Schug Publishing. There's a website link there. And also my archive, it's on thehousekid.wordpress.com.
Perfect. And if you like what you're listening to today, go to thechriscollinsshow.com and become a member today.
What's good, listeners? I'm the host of The Chris Collins Show. And if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button below and check us out at thechriscollinsshow.com. Peace.